If everybody's ready, I think we'll get started. We'll bring the meeting of the Wyomissing Zoning Hearing Board back to order. This is a continuation of the meeting held May 5th, 2021, that we were Zooming. And I had the transcript in front of me, but I think we should make sure that we all agree where we are. Keith, I think you had finished.
I think I had finished testimony of Mr. Tunichenko had started his direct.
That's correct.
We're not halfway through. Well, actually, one of them was at the door.
So,
I think, as I recall, I think you told us you had about 10 minutes.
Yep, then literally that's about what we have.
Okay, good. Is that legal, 10 minutes? Or?
It's basketball 10 minutes.
No,
And the
not
fourth
10
quarter
minutes.
basketball 10 minutes. How about that?
so we're gonna be here till 6:30?
We're gonna be here most days.
Okay.
Nicole, do you have any other witnesses other than Mr. Tunichenko?
Just Michelle. That's, and I think
And I don't
everyone's sworn.
recall, I'm sure Kevin, have you been sworn?
Yes.
Okay, and.
Mr. McMillan has been
Yeah,
sworn.
Previously sworn.
And Mr. Roman was sworn.
Yes, and Michelle was as well.
Mr. Roman was sworn.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So we will still have to swear Michelle when it comes to her.
Michelle was sworn.
Or you were sworn?
Mhm.
I can't remember yesterday, much less.
Yeah, too many hearings.
Yeah.
since
At least I thought I read that, but.
What we'll do is I'll take a look at the transcript while we're proceeding, so if we do need to swear, we'll do that.
Oh, we swore twice. It
They will not.
It was.
No.
I'm not swearing at her, so that's it.
Doesn't matter.
So,
I would just ask, in terms of me being the audiovisual aid person, please give me some leeway, because there's a lot of exhibits from 3 different hearing dates. So just tell me what you want, and I will pull up this.
So I sent you an email.
I have it.
Okay, that's it. That's it. You go to that email, it's all you need from me.
So just tell me what you want,
Yep.
when you want it.
Yep, and I'm trying to make it super easy for you.
Okay,
Ready?
you're on?
I'm on?
All right, go.
Okay, so are you okay with him here or do you come over there? Okay, all right. So Mr. Timochenko, we were here on May 5th and you had started your testimony on May 5th. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, and did you have a chance to take a look at the transcript from May 5th and your testimony?
Is that what you should send me?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Was there anything that you wanted to clarify or anything you needed to elaborate on from your testimony from that day?
No.
So then we'll pick up where we left off, which was we were talking about leases with the Wyomissing Industrial Park. And you had indicated that you had entered into leases with the condo owners of the Wyomissing Industrial Park. Is that accurate?
Yes.
This is going to be net 3, as we let go of net 2. So this is the leases.
Okay.
Leases, and Keith, I have a copy of everything for you.
about
Would you again, so one for you and one. And then I figured everybody else can see them on the screen, if that's okay?
That's
To
fine.
kill less trees? Okay. Do you need this? I need that one for him.
Sure.
Oh, wait, I have a copy for there.
Oh, okay, yeah, I do, thank you.
Mr. Timochenko, could you identify what's been marked as net 3? Could you identify that document?
It is the lease between Summit Steel and Water Polo 5.
And who is Water Polo 5?
It's partnership, another partnership.
And this lease, what is it? What is the property that's being leased pursuant to this lease?
How would you like me to describe it?
However you'd like to describe it.
It would be the parking lot in front of Baja Beach. Big parking lot in front of the building.
The property that's subject to the application before? the-
Yes.
Okay. And there's a second page to that document. And would you describe this for the board?
That is the other lease with Chipway,
And for the same premises?
the same parking lot.
And you indicated that it says water polo, I think you said 5?
Yes,
Who now owns that parking lot?
I would assume we're Pole 5.
If I refresh your, who, what building is at 101?
Okay, the Metropolitan.
So who owns the parking lot?
We're Pole 5, which owns the Metropolitan Apartment Building, of course, the parking lot next to it.
Perfect.
If it's helpful, I'll stipulate that an entity owned by Mr. Timochenko in whole or in part owns the parking lot.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Did you approach the condo owners of the Wyomissing Industrial Park to lease this space to them?
No,
Did they approach you?
yes.
Can you explain to the board the conversations you had with the, which Mr. Romick, who is present in the hearing today, with regard to the lease?
I believe I know he asked me if he could lease it because they were either leasing it from the previous owner or there was some type of agreement.
And the previous owner was at Arrow International.
And the companies that bought them. So it wasn't Arrow when I bought it, it was Teleflex, I believe.
Did Mr. Romick indicate why he needed the lease to continue?
I believe he needed, I'm not sure this exact timing of this, but he needed it for variances.
Were there any discussions on having obtained variances utilizing that parking space in the past?
I'm not sure what you mean by the past.
When he had leased it from Arrow or Teleflex, had he entered into those leases to obtain variances as well?
I believe so.
And do you know if he actually obtained a variance based on the parking that you leased to him?
I believe so.
Are the leases in place today?
Is the parking lot leases in place?
Yes.
No.
Did you terminate them?
No.
Who did?
Both Gary and Chet.
Were they reinstated after they were terminated?
No.
The parking lot now, do you have plans for that parking lot?
We're working on them.
You have plans to develop it possibly?
I mean, possibly, yes.
If the relief requested today is granted, do you feel that would have an adverse impact on that development?
It could.
Why would you say?
Because their building is right in the parking lot. So no matter what I did with that, if I open up the barricade that is currently there, their tenants will have some parking, whatever's there.
Objection.
Basis.
Speculation.
Sustain that. Want to rephrase? Try again?
No, I'm good, thanks. Michelle, pictures from the email. This would be met for. Just do that to, please.
So working is met for?
Yes,
This is, what is this, all photographs is by way of,
yes, it is 22 different photographs. Numbered. And you can see them on the screen in color as well, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone's ready?
so before you start, just for the record, so would you just provide us with a stack of photographs on the met for, and each picture is then also identified with a number, correct? So met
Correct.
for 1, met for 2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Timochenko, you've been handed what has been marked as met for. Do you recognize these photographs?
Yes,
Did you take these photographs?
I did.
Why did you take these photographs?
I just wanted to show the parking situation.
So, do you remember approximately the time you took these photographs?
Date,
Approximate date?
I do not. Fall. It's in the fall, I believe.
And fall of 2020?
No, 19, I believe. If I had to guess, it's in fall 2019.
Okay. So these would have been pre-COVID.
That's correct.
So if we can go through these, the one on the screen right now is number 1. And what did you want to depict by taking this picture?
Just that there's no line parking there. This is just a portion of where they just park. Wherever they want.
And number 2.
Same thing, all over the, we see the trucks just parking on the side, and the other cars, there's no one parking.
If I may stop, if we could identify where people were parking, which lot this is, or purports to be, it'd be nice.
I think that's a fair question.
Sure.
So if you could, let's just kind of go back to the first one, Met 4-1, and ask Mr. Timachenko to identify kind of, or which lot and the angle of which he's looking to take a photo.
And if I could just ask, that there's only really one lot.
This is the lot that's in front of Baja,
No,
so this is
yeah,
the,
this is the big works lot, the
Okay.
only lot that's in
that's, I'm
question.
gonna make sure,
Yes,
because we are
okay,
talking about
okay.
a couple, we're talking about the
Got
Met
it.
parking lot, we're talking about the one in front of Baja, and we're talking about the larger lot in front of the entire complex for the works.
Okay, so go back to number one, can you, identify for the board which parking lot this is?
This is the main parking lot in front of the works. In this particular location is in front of Village Gym.
With number two,
The same area, yes.
with number three. Where is this taken?
Okay, this is a different parking lot.
And which lot is this?
This is, the parking lot, the building behind the truck is the Metropolitan. That's the building that, where the apartments are. This is the parking lot next to what I will call the military recruiting station.
The building that the applicant is looking to release from?
That's correct.
And what is this picture depicting?
Just showing that they're in the same lot, they park wherever they want. They don't follow, they don't stay in the line, they're just overcrowded.
So excuse me, so the parking lot, is this your parking lot?
It's a good question. No, it isn't. It's their parking lot, and it's to the side of their building. It's about 12 spaces, if I had to guess.
So this is essentially kind of to the rear and side of their building, is that,
Not to really the side.
it's what is that?
Yeah, yes. If Michelle, would you be able to bring up Met 1? That would show Attorney Becker exactly what we're talking about. That's not, was not on my email, I'm so sorry.
Give me a second.
You should have a copy of the exhibit. It wasn't written to me. Dan.
Is that Met 1?
This is Met
There it
1.
is.
Yeah,
Okay.
there it is. Good job,
Okay.
Michelle. So, Mr. Timachenko, would you be able, there we go, there's a whole cursor thing going on. So would you be able to now describe for the board?
Right where that is, right there. Where Michelle's got those are the 12 spots.
So
That's what
it's, I would call that the northeast corner of the property, is that, if you look at the arrow up on it's the same.
Yeah.
So the northeast
Northeast,
corner,
yep.
and there's a number,
12.
thank you,
I think it indicates 12 spaces would be my guess.
okay.
Michelle, please go back to the photos. And now, go to the next one, number 4. Mr. Timachenko, where is this which parking lot and where is this located?
In front of the works.
And what is this picture?
Just showing cars parked.
The next picture, number 5.
Back to the parking lot we were just looking at.
And what is this showing?
A different car parked along the side, the vans parked on the sides, you can see.
And,
The car to the left isn't in its space. Both cars to the left are not in space, they're blocking the entrance actually. So,
and there are also cars parked not in parking spots at all.
yeah,
And next, which is number 6.
that was the same picture as the two prior to the function for that,
And this is again in which lot?
right in front of works.
Sure, this is better order. Going back, going to number 7.
Yeah, you're going back and forth there. This is another picture on another day of just people parking all over. There's obviously a parking issue. They park all over the place. There's not enough parking for them.
And number 8.
And then when they're not there, they're parking in my lot, which is literally 10 feet away from that lot. This is a picture, okay. This is a picture of going down the alley, the parking lot, the 12 parking lots to the left. This is them parking in the alleyway.
And number 9.
This is a spot further down the alleyway, just parking in front of the parking center.
And number 10.
This one's at night. This is the night where I saw them parking in my lot and I drove over and just wanted to show how they park along. And a guardrail there, and, which you can't get two cars by there. So I think there might be another picture where I'm actually head on with another car, and we play chicken with who would back up. I don't know if that's in this or not.
And,
Okay.
and this is in the, which parking lot?
This is in the works, but you see the Laser Quest was there, and then Baja Canyon Beach to the right.
And the next picture, number 11.
Just how they're outside the lines. They're actually almost parked all the way to the guardrail.
And is that typically, to your best of your knowledge, an aisle?
No, it's not, it isn't.
And is it typically a two-way aisle?
Yes,
And this again is in the parking lot.
right for the
Next picture,
This was number 12.
number 12, number 12.
Yeah, you can't really see, they're just parked all over, there's no lines here. There's no white lines, they're just parked.
Did you have any difficulty
I did.
navigating?
navigate.
Did you have difficulty navigating through these spaces?
I did,
And again, which parking lot is this?
in front of the works.
Next picture, number 13. What is this indicate?
Yeah, this is along that guardrail where now they got it completely blocked. So you couldn't get through there, if I couldn't get there, that's completely blocking the entire parking in the drive aisle.
And this occurred while you were driving around?
Yeah,
And again, which parking lot?
right in front of the works.
Next picture, number 14.
Again, the car just parks on an angle. I don't know if he's got another car parked yet. Can't quite tell this, but in
And again, which parking lot?
front of the works.
Number 15.
Again, another along the guardrail further up,
And which parking lot again?
in front of the works.
Number 16.
This is me playing chicken with this, I remember this. Both, one of us had the backup. I don't remember which one.
And again, which parking lot?
In front of the works.
Number 17.
Really don't remember that one.
But which parking lot is it?
In front of the works.
Again, number 18.
Just show you that it's full. In front of the works.
Number 19.
On the street, every car, every spot on the street was full. I think it's snowing.
And do you know which street this is?
Can't read that side, whatever's right in front of the works, that is the one.
It's the street that is parallel to the works parking lot?
Right in front of the works, yeah.
Number 20.
I took this from actually my own apartment, showing, I don't know, one day how full it was. And I think at the same night as when I saw them driving over to my lawn, I watched it was straight from my living room. Just watch them drive around and come over.
And this is during the day?
In this is day, but this is probably dusk or something, I don't think it's really usually not an issue during the day
And that,
as much.
and which parking lot is that?
That's the worst part. You can see my parking lot right in front of it, that's empty. The one that I own.
And that's the parking lot that is in front of the applicant's spaces they're attempting to
That's
lease?
correct.
And that's the parking lot that was previously rented by the condo owners of the Wyomissing Industrial Park?
Yes.
And number 21?
Just them working out, they constantly work out on my parking lot.
When you say they, you
The training, the military training, I've asked them, so listen, you guys, like, I'll give it to you for $1, I don't care, but you just, liability wise, you cannot be working out on my parking lot without some liability insurance.
And where is the recruiting office located?
Right to the right of that.
It's a tenant in the building which the applicant is attempting to lease.
When I say that's twice a week, that's twice a week.
And the last picture, number 22.
Same thing, just a different day, but they're working out in
And again, which parking lot is this?
my parking lot.
Thank you. You mentioned that you see people circling the parking lot and coming over into the Met parking lot. Is that an accurate statement?
That's correct.
And you can see this from your apartment.
Yep.
Is this still going on today?
Yes,
If the relief requested is granted, do you fear the tenants of the applicant's building will continue to use the Met's parking lot for its customers to the detriment of your tenants?
yes.
Why do you say that?
Because at least, I don't want to exaggerate, at least once a week, we get phone calls from tenants that people are parking in their spots. As I mentioned before, Tenants pay anywhere from $200 to $3,500 to live here. It's very expensive. And when people park in their assigned spots, you get tipped off. And we get calls all the time.
No further questions?
Mr. Mooney, for the cross-examination.
Thank you. Mr. Timchenko, you testified in the earlier hearing that you had verbal altercations with patrons of the Wyomissing condo units parking on your lot.
I've had altercations.
Physical altercations?
You mean like touching?
Yeah, that's why I said
No.
verbal.
Verbal.
When's the last time you had such a verbal altercation with someone that you believe was from the Wyomissing condo unit?
I don't believe it, I know it. So, I'm gonna say over a year ago.
And which lot were they on, the Met lot or the bigger open lot in front of the,
It's always been on the Metropolitan lot, not the bigger lot, because we have that barricaded off.
so is it safe to say that no one's parked a vehicle on the bigger open lot in front of Baja Beach for better description in over 2 years since you posted it with the signage that says no parking and the barricades were erected?
I would say that's a fair statement, except for 2 occasions where, the owners of Baja have asked me to open up the lot for 1 week. They have a tanning week or something, so he's a really nice guy, and I just let him, I open up the lot for him.
So it was with your agreement when those
That's-
people parked
that's
on your lot?
correct.
Regard to the pictures you took a whole stack of pictures, and all the pictures you took are of the work slot and what you believe to be improper parking on the work slot.
That's correct.
You mentioned on some of those occasions that while you were taking those pictures, people were parking in your lot, correct?
What I said is I would watch them spin around looking for a spot, and then you can see them coming up the road and parking in my lot.
Let me get that, is the same occasion that you said you took some of these pictures, you said you watched vehicles park in your lot,
That's
correct?
correct.
Why didn't you take any pictures of the people who parked in your lot?
I didn't leave my apartment.
You didn't leave your apartment to take the pictures you took, did you?
No,
And you could see the people, you could see these vehicles from your apartment, correct?
I think you might be a little confused, or maybe I confused you in saying, the pictures I took from my apartment, I would see them on those days circle there and then come and pull into my lot on the front. And you can see them come up the street. My wife and I would just sit there and say, watch them come over, watch them go down the road and then come up.
And my question is, if you witnessed this while you're taking pictures of the lot at the works, why didn't you take any photographic evidence of the vehicles entering and parking in your own lot, which I would think would have more of a direct effect on you?
I don't believe it would.
You don't believe that vehicles parking in your lot have more of a direct effect on you than if they park in the lot they're supposed to?
Well, I didn't take the pictures because I didn't want to, it was either an evening, I'm enjoying my night, I didn't want to go out to the parking lot, and if I did, I'm not so sure a picture of a red car in my parking lot would prove anything.
And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm trying to understand your other testimony. You just said, I didn't take the pictures. You started off your testimony on this stack of pictures with, I took the pictures. So either you took these pictures from your home, your apartment, or you walked out and took the pictures, or somebody else took the pictures. I'm just trying to figure out which one of the three it is.
I have no clue what you're asking me, honestly.
You took these pictures, the stack of 20.
I did take them all.
You took most of them or the majority of them from your own apartment, correct?
You can see the ones that I took from my apartment, they're on an angle. So you just know, you can see those. And the ones I took inside the parking lot, you can see it's from my car.
You testified, I believe I can go to 17 at least. You testified you were sitting in your apartment and you watched cars circle and go into your lot at the same time you took pictures of the works lot.
Okay?
Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
And my question is why did you not take pictures of the people who were trespassing on your property instead of taking the pictures of the people going to the works and parking at the works?
You asked me that question 3 times. I thought I answered it.
No, I got what we just got now in exchange.
No, we didn't, I just said, because I didn't go down and take a picture, I was in my living room.
How is it you're able to take the picture of the cars on the works lot that you can see, but you can't take the pictures of the vehicles entering your own lot that you can see? I don't understand your inability to take the other photographs.
I think, Kevin, I think what he's asking, I'm trying to make sure I understand. You took pictures from your apartment of the works lot.
Yes,
You saw cars going into the Met lot. Why couldn't you take a picture of that car from your apartment as well?
Without leaving your
Without leaving your apartment? I think that's what he's trying to
you
ask.
mean coming up Hill Avenue?
I don't know, yeah, I
But
don't.
it's so quickly, you have to be in my apartment, you see it coming up and then they go into the lot, so it's such a quick thing, I don't know if I could have taken a picture of that.
Would you
You
be,
actually can't see the lot from your apartment.
That's correct. You can
That's
see,
where
Yes.
you can see the
Right.
entrance, you can see the entrance, I can't see the lot, which is a good point.
I think that's where this is going.
Right, I can see them pulling in and making a right into the entrance, that's what I can see.
but you can't see the park.
Correct.
Right.
And would you be able to identify that was a tenant or
Oh, no, you can see it, because, you know, you can see the colored car, I mean, I can just watch it.
but I understand, but in the picture, how would you be able to identify that? If a picture was taken, would you
Correct.
be able to identify that? If there's a picture of a car in your parking lot,
Right.
would you be able to identify it as a tenant or a customer?
Correct, I would.
Now, I understand you're a concerned citizen and you're worried about the drive aisles at the works, but the majority of these pictures don't have an effect on you as a property owner. The fact that they're parked at the works illegally or not in driving spaces, correct?
The only way it would affect me is that it's full and they're coming over to my lot. But as far as safety, that would not affect me.
And you understand the application today is for a business that operates from 9 to 5, basically.
I don't know.
You were here and present at the hearing in May, I think it was, we were here. And you heard the testimony of Mr. McMillan with regard to his business of flipping houses and 3 employees doing paperwork in the office?
I don't remember, but I'll stipulate that. I mean, I just don't remember. That was 9 to 5. I don't remember.
What I'm getting at is, most of your issues with parking seem to be at night. Is that a fair statement?
That's not a fair statement.
So you have people in the daytime parking in your lot?
All the time. To clarify this, I have problems at night from the works. During the day, it's the building we're talking about. So most of my altercations have been with my personal altercations, with people who are parking in my lot, and I happen to be pulling out in my garage, and I stop them and they go, well, I'm just dropping off the medical supplier, I'm just going to Baja Beach. So during the day, it's mostly that building.
So it's mostly, it sounds like transit people, not customers, not patrons. It sounds like it's, I'm dropping off somebody like UPS, a box truck.
I don't know what the transit means, but in this particular case, it was a husband dropping off something to his wife who worked there. In another case, it was a customer of Baja Beach. And in another case, it was the recruiting, most of the times it's a recruiting station. Either people, and it was never the military, it was applicants, like the kids who were going to be recruited, or their mom. I had one, I forgot all about this one, where she parked sideways and blocked everybody in. I said, you can't park here. Because she goes, well, my son's gonna be out. I said, man, you're parking in spaces that, people own.
And you said this hasn't happened in over a year though?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I thought you said, have I had an altercation?
No, I think you testified on direct that you haven't had any real issues in over a year.
I don't believe I said that. If I did, that I misspoke.
I think I asked you, when is the last time you had any real issues, and you said in over a year.
just ask that for me?
Yeah,
today?
yes, you.
No, I'm saying prior, did you ask me that?
Yes.
That was my answer?
That's what I thought.
I don't believe I said that. So to clarify, we're still having issues. We have issues every week.
And again, I would ask you, are the majority of your issues in the evening hours or during the day?
I believe I answered that. During the day, it's from whatever building. Can we come up with a name for this building?
Condo number 2.
I think it's a good idea, so condo number 2 is what it's called.
Is that what we
Thank you. So,
I refer to it as building 25.
So, okay, let's make sure it's consistent, so it's building number 25, that's what it's listed out on the plans, that on the Met 1, let's take a look at that if we can, just to make sure we got all. Not, they're not, okay, so let's mark on Met 1, let's mark building 25, Michelle, that's what it's called, is that correct?
That's what I refer to it as.
Okay, so on the official diagram, can you just show that, yeah, okay, so you see where Nicole marked building number 25, Michelle, can you just,
yeah,
for the
that's,
purposes of our discussion, so everybody can see it, that's building number 25 right there. And the lot is, move your cursor down slightly to the parking area, and that's the parking area that we've been referring to as kind of the parking area in front of Baja Beach Tanning, correct? Is that correct, Mr. Timchek?
that's correct.
Okay, so moving forward for the discussion, building 25, everybody understands what that is, and the parking in front of Baja is the parking that's in front of building 25, and then the Met parking is the parking that's in front of the Metropolitan Apartments. Is that fair for everybody? Do you understand that?
Yep,
Okay,
understood.
good, all right.
Is the parking, you said, parking in front of the net.
Yep.
It's not just in front, it's on the side as well. is that
That's correct.
That's correct. The front and the side, that's correct. Well, okay, and this one, this one is it's Met 4, I'm sorry, Met 4-5, which is the parking, which, you shall go back to the Met 1, is the little parking lot that we talked about with the 12 spaces that is part of the works parking, but to the northeast side. So we'll call that works northeast side that we have any further.
I don't think we want to call it the works.
Is that not part of the,
No.
Okay.
Building 25.
as part of, okay, building 25, okay, we'll call it building 25.
Building says 25 on the print.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, it does. On the photograph, it actually says building 25. So the building 25, the 12 spaces, northeast side. Okay,
So building 25 per.
correct, that's fine.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, please proceed.
All right. So getting back to this applicant, do you, because that's what we're here for, is this application. Do you believe that 3 business persons that work from 9 to 5 are going to contribute to what you have described as your parking problem?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. I don't know this gentleman. He seems like a nice guy. But, you know, I've started businesses just like his, actually. And I don't know how many employees he's allowed to have. You may say 3, he could grow to 12. I don't know that. I don't know how many customers he has at all, or professionals coming into the building. I don't know any of those things. All I know is I have a parking issue, and every time a new tenant goes in there, it's gonna make mine worse.
I believe you were here at the last hearing when Mr. McMillan testified that his customers do not typically come into the business except at settlement, if they hold settlement at the property rather than at a settlement company. Do you remember that testimony or recall that testimony?
I don't recall, but let's just say it's true. Mr. Mooney, you and I we've been around long enough to know people come into your place of business. I don't care if it's a lawyer, a title company, you're gonna have traffic. That traffic is probably gonna park in my lot. That's what I'm telling you.
So you're saying that Mr. McMillan lied when he testified at the last hearing?
I don't believe he would ever lie. I'm just telling you, I know businesses. I think most of us people in this room understand businesses, and people are gonna come into your business, whether delivering something or not.
Well, you know your business, right?
I do.
I know my business, I think. Do you know Mr. McMillan's business?
I do not.
with regard to the Army, you testified that twice a week that they perform calisthenics in your parking lot, correct?
It happens a few times a week, yeah, twice.
And this is continuing today, I believe you stated.
I don't know if it's quite as much as they've moved a lot to that side northeast corner, building 25. They're doing a lot of it in there. But I still occasionally get them in the main parking lot.
Would you like us to send a letter copying you to the military, to the Department of Defense, letting them know that they are no longer, that we do not own that property, we do not have a lease for that property, and they are not to utilize that property for calisthenics or any other activities?
You asked me if that would be a good idea?
I'm asking you if you would desire for us to send such a letter.
Yes.
And just as a bit for the record, we have.
Well, we will send it as, I'm offering,
Yeah, and that's fine, but I just, for the record, just so you know, we've done.
I'm offering as their landlord to have said letter sent.
Okay, let's keep with the testimony and Mr. Jenkins.
I'm trying to set up a condition is what I'm trying to set up.
Okay, keep
So, Mr. Timochenko, you're familiar with Mr. Romy, the owner of, what do we call it, Building 25?
What do you mean by familiar?
You understand who he is, you know who he is, you're aware of who he is, you've had discussions with him.
I've spoken to him once or twice.
Did you ever speak to him about possibly buying his building?
I believe, yes.
Did that come to fruition?
It wasn't me, I don't believe, speaking it directly. I think it was I think it was somebody in my office, just to be clear, and that did not come to fruition.
I don't have any further questions.
No, there we go.
No redirect? All right. Thank you, Mr. Jacob. You're welcome. At this point, Ms. Blank, I believe you said you had one more witness
Yes.
that is there.
Yes.
Ms. Bear, I believe that you have been sworn to this morning by the transfer. So, Ms. Blank, if you proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Bear, under the literal reading of the Wyomissing zoning ordinance with the uses that are proposed for all of the condominiums in the Wyomissing Industrial Park, including the applicant before us today, how many parking spaces are needed to the best of your knowledge?
I believe it's 1,926.
How many spaces, to the best of your knowledge, are available?
300 and some, I believe, after the count from the last plan at a hearing 2 months ago.
Does that take into consideration the sale of China, and the loss of that parking?
It does not, I was not aware that property was actually sold. You mean since May?
Yes.
I was not.
I don't think there's any testimony in that property being sold either.
Yeah, I don't believe there is either, so that's the first I've heard. So we can establish that.
It's just public record, I have nothing to establish it, so we'll
I'm
move
not
on.
sure how it's relevant.
Yeah. Ms. Bear, where in the Wyomissing zoning ordinance does it state that the Wyomissing zoning board is permitted to consider peak versus non-peak when granting a variance for parking?
It doesn't, it's something I've suggested various applicants, including the one in front of you and others, use as a basis for the board's consideration of the request for relief.
But at this time, the Wyomissing Borough has not amended its zoning ordinance to allow for consideration of off-peak versus peak, correct?
It does in terms of a parking matrix in the overlay district.
But not for this specific commercial district.
Correct.
Did anyone from the borough actually obtain a peak versus non-peak study from any of the tenants for this applicant?
No.
Do you know how wide the parking spaces need to be in the borough of Wyomissing?
9 by 18 for standard, 10 by 22 parallel to the building.
And you've actually gone over and measured the ones over at the works, correct?
Many years ago, yes.
And they conformed to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And how wide are aisles required to be in parking lots like the Wyomissing Industrial Park?
Two-way traffic, 24 feet.
And have you measured those aisles?
Again, many years ago. Yes,
And at the time they conformed?
yes.
If an aisle is blocked, would that create a violation under the zoning ordinance?
If it's blocked, no, I mean, there's nothing specifically in the zoning ordinance that says it can't be blocked for, you know, a certain amount of time. I would think it's more of a public safety fire code issue. That, if an aisle's blocked, it's typically enforced by the fire department, not by me.
But that could pose a health and safety issue.
Yes,
Are cars permitted to be parked in spots that are not designated as parking spaces?
no,
Is that a violation under the zoning ordinance?
yes,
You saw the pictures that we put up, Met 4:1-22. And you saw that people were parking along a guardrail. Is that a violation of the zoning ordinance?
yes.
You saw people blocking the aisles and driveways. You said that that's not a violation of the zoning ordinance?
I've never, no, I've never issued an enforcement notice. I mean, typically when something like that happens, it's brought to my attention after the fact the cars are gone. It would be a warning conversation with the property owner. Immediate enforcement would typically be through the fire department.
You saw that people were parking outside of parking spaces. Is that a violation of the zoning ordinance?
Yes,
And could these violations pose a safety and health risk?
yes,
In the past, relief has been granted for the applicants of the Wyomissing Industrial Park based on the uses in a certain number of spaces. Are you aware of those requests?
yes,
And various variances were granted. You're aware of that as well.
yes,
And those were granted in 2002, 8, 11, 12, 15, 18, and 19. Is that the best of your recollection?
yes,
And you testified in all of those except 2002 and 2008?
correct,
And you've reviewed those decisions over the years.
that's my fair statement.
And you understand the testimony given and what the board has required of the applicant over those various years.
Yes,
So if we could put up 2002, please, and mark this as met 5. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't do it very short, Dan. Can you get it? I'm sorry. Now, I know you didn't testify at this one, but you have reviewed this over the years?
actually, I would argue the first time I reviewed this is when you brought it up at the prior hearing for Richard White.
And you reviewed it then?
Yes,
And this was an application from one of the condo owners, Zenith Properties, at the Wyomissing Industrial Park. Correct?
yes,
And pursuant to this order, if we look at number 1 on page 6.
I don't have a number 1 on page 6.
Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have a number 1 on page 6.
I have a number 2.
Go to the next page. Page 7 for you. Sorry about that. This stated that an emergency plan was a contingency that had to be submitted. Correct.
Yes,
Sorry. Was that ever submitted?
that I'm aware of, no, I wasn't here in 2002.
And you've checked your records to see if it was?
There's nothing in the file.
And if we look at number 3 under the, on the order, it also states that the applicant was to supply an additional 134 parking spaces from long-term leases.
Correct.
Were those ever supplied, to the best of your knowledge?
At least a portion of them were at one time.
But not in 2002, to the best of your knowledge?
I never found anything documenting that.
So to the best of your knowledge, in 2002, the applicant never complied with the contingencies outlined to have when the variance was granted.
That I can find documentation of that.
I'm sorry. This is for building 25?
Yes,
It's for the entire property.
Are you talking about the works property now, or just talking about building 25?
both. The
Okay,
parking.
because maybe I'm missing something, but Chip White is not the applicant here, he's under he's a building 24.
This is for the
It's
Zenith,
Gary Roman.
this is Zenith Properties.
Okay, so this is just strictly that one.
It's for Zenith Properties application, but it's for the entire property. Because at the time, they did not lease on the Arrow building. Maybe we should go off the record.
No, I think we should ask Michelle some of these questions. I think Michelle may be able to answer some of those.
So to clarify, Bob, while the property is broken up by various condo units, it's one tax parcel. So in terms of a zoning standpoint and parking, anything that this board grants, regardless of whether it's for Gary's portion, Chip's portion, Chima's portion, applies to the entire property. So if you grant something that Gary would ask for and there's a condition attached to that, it still applies to Chip and Chima because they're equal parts condo owners.
Because they are.
Equal parts condo owners.
Next one, 2008, Michelle.
Better shot.
I did better that time. This would be number 6. Michelle, are you ready? Yes. So, on page 3, number 18. Again, it states that part of the conditions, the applicant will provide parking spaces on adjacent properties. And now this is 2008. To the best of your knowledge, in 2008, did that happen?
Not that I can find documentation of.
So again, in 2008, when the variance was granted based on additional parking, the applicant failed to comply with the contingencies.
Correct.
Next. Next, 7,
2012,
2011.
you didn't include that one.
I didn't,
Probably.
Michelle, I'm sorry.
October 2011,
I'm just gonna be order really quick, Michelle. December 12, 2011.
Yep.
Got it? Thank you, I'm sorry.
that's my file.
And this would be net number 7.
Yes.
And Michelle, this would have been the first one that you testified as the zoning officer?
Correct.
And then if we could go to page 7, please. Subparagraph E. Where it requires that 60 additional spaces would be put into building 21 by stacking cars and parking. Did that ever happen?
Not with any form of an approved plan, not to say it wasn't done without my knowledge.
But to your knowledge, it wasn't done.
Correct.
And that was a contingency for them getting this variance.
Hold on a second, I wanted to read through the conditions on this one, because I know there was one where the board left it up to my discretion whether or not that indoor parking was required. Yes, I mean, this is the one where the indoor parking spaces need not be utilized unless or until the borough zoning officer.
Okay, just slow down.
Sorry. The indoor parking spaces need not be utilized unless or until the borough zoning officer determines in his or her sole and absolute discretion that there are inadequate outdoor parking spaces available as a result of the borough zoning officer's random periodic inspections of the properties. In the event the borough zoning officer determines in his or her sole and absolute discretion that the outdoor parking is inadequate, the applicant shall be required to utilize the indoor parking space to the full capacity of the 60 parking spaces. Full capacity, sorry, of the 60 parking spaces that the applicants testified they are capable of providing.
And you're reading that from page 12, 1B.
Correct.
And if we look at the page 13, which would be subparagraph 1D, this order requires that all conditions of prior decisions be met,
Correct.
and that all tests, and number 2 on page 13, that they comply with all testimony and evidence produced in the hearing.
Correct. I could pull the transcript if necessary, but I recall, this is where my memory actually serves me, I recall having a conversation on the record at that hearing that those spaces would not be required to physically be installed until the time I or a future zoning officer made the determination that there was inadequate exterior parking.
And that determination was not made. But you don't know if they actually use the indoor parking or not.
Correct.
Number, whoops, I'm working, I'm sorry. Net 8. I was doing your job, I'm sorry.
This is 2012?
This is. In 2012, you testified again as the zoning officer and the secretary this time, correct?
Correct.
And if we turn to page 7 of this variance, 1A, again, it says all conditions established in prior decisions need to have been met by the applicant, correct?
Yes.
And on page 8, number 1, which is a typo, should be number 2. The applicant is bound by and shall comply with all testimony and evidence of the hearing, correct?
Correct.
And to the best of your knowledge, in 2012, there still were no long-term leases ever produced for you, correct?
Actually, I believe starting around this time, the leases with Arrow International were part of the documents. If you give me a second,
I think when we get to the next one, it'll refresh your memory of when they started.
okay. So you want 2015?
15. This will be net 9. And if we could go to page 4, number 14, C, subsection C. Would you agree that it states that earlier this year, applicant leased an additional 80 spaces?
Yes.
So would that refresh your memory that in 2012, they still had not complied with and obtained the long-term leases that were required in 2002, 2008, 2011, and 2012?
I can't say that they hadn't complied with obtaining them, they had not complied with providing the borough with a copy of those leases.
And the contingencies required that they did provide, that they were to provide the borough with copies, correct?
Correct.
And they did not comply with that contingency.
Correct.
Again, in 2015, you testified both as a zoning or officer and the secretary.
Correct.
This variance was granted because they did obtain those 80 spaces.
Correct.
Those spaces are now gone.
Correct.
And if we go to page 9 of this order, it again has the language under 1E, bound by all prior testimony, evidence, and all other hearings.
Correct.
This would be net 9, 8, 10. Oh, 10. Sorry. Michelle, you testified again at this one as both the zoning officer and the secretary.
Correct.
And this was a request for a distillery, a bocce ball court, and escape rooms.
Correct.
And to the best of your knowledge, the distillery has obtained its certificate of occupancy, but has not opened to the public yet.
Correct.
And the bocce courts were never installed.
Correct.
And I was the one to inform you at our last hearing in May that they actually were using the space for the bocce courts as a restaurant and not as bocce courts, correct?
Correct.
And that they never filed
I'm
anything.
gonna object, that was not at our last hearing in this matter, so I'm not sure what last hearing she's talking about.
I apologize, at our hearing.
Okay, so why don't you just ask the question how it's being used, if she knows that.
Michelle, do you now know how it's being used?
Yes.
How do you know?
Based off of testimony and a series of questions, you asked me at a hearing for 1119 Burn Road, Group Athletics Apparel had submitted that application. That hearing was held, Group Athletics Apparel, that hearing was also on May 5th, I believe at 3 p.m.
It was May sixth, just to, for the record, it was May sixth at 2.
Close to now.
We know a lot of them. And is that a change of use from the variance request that they had asked for?
Yes,
And did they ask the borough for any form of relief from that change of use?
that I'm aware of now.
And going back to exhibit number 10, if we go to page 14, subsection F.
I'm sorry, which was exhibit 10, the current,
Yes, the one we're currently on here.
okay.
Subsection F on page 14. Again, the applicant is bound and shall comply with all testimony and evidence produced at that hearing and all other hearings.
Correct.
And 2019, Michelle?
Yep.
And Michelle, again, you testified at this hearing as both the zoning officer and the secretary.
Correct.
And this, again, on page 14, subsection B states, the applicant is bound and shall comply with all testimony and evidence at all hearings, including the hearing before the applicant.
Correct.
Did Mr. Romig, who is the owner of Building 25, one of the condos of the Wyomissing Industrial Park, ever reach out to you or anyone else in the borough, to the best of your knowledge, to determine if you could terminate the parking leases with the Met?
No.
What happened when the borough received notice that the leases with the Met were terminated?
I filed formal violation notices against all the condo owners within the Wyomissing Industrial Park property for violation of the terms of all the variances that have been granted to the property.
And Zenith, you determined cured their violation because the yoga studio did not obtain a certificate of occupancy and never opened.
Correct.
But this is the space that we're here for today, in which additional parking is necessary.
Correct.
Has a shared parking study ever been completed for the Wyomissing Industrial Park?
No, not that I'm aware of or received a copy of.
Have any complaints for parking issues been lodged or made to you or anyone else in the borough since the Met parking leases have been terminated?
One person, Mr. Timchenko.
And Mr. Timochenko's complained to you about parking issues?
Correct.
And what were those complaints?
Similar to what his testimony was today about vehicles either prior to the lot in front of building 25 being barricaded, vehicles parking there that were not tenants of the Met and or vehicles parking in the parking lot directly adjacent to the Met.
And prior to the leases with the Met being terminated, did you have complaints of parking issues?
No.
No further questions?
Mr. Mooney?
Thank you. Ms. Baird, Ms. Plank produced an impressive number of zoning decisions with regard to the condo units at the Wyomissing condominium unit. Outside the 2002 decision, I'd ask you to take a look at all of the decisions real quick and look and see who the applicant is in paragraph 1.
The works at Wyomissing, Slick Willie's Real Estate Holding LLC. Slick Willie's Real Estate Holding LLC. Slick Willie's Real Estate Holding LLC. Also Slick Willie's Real Estate Holdings LLC and Slick Willie's Real Estate Holdings LLC. That's the last one.
So you understand how condominium units work, that there is shared real estate and then the buildings are owned by the individual condominium unit owners, correct?
Yes.
So if the works at Wyomissing and Slick Willie's were the applicant in zoning hearings and did not live up to the terms and conditions of those zoning decisions, that would be violations by the owner of Slick Willie's and the works?
Correct, but under zoning, I would still send the enforcement notice to the property owner.
But as far as the individual who didn't live up to the decisions in the applications as that he proffered, that would have been Mr. White?
Correct.
And you heard the testimony at our last hearing with regard to the proposed use?
Correct.
And you are aware what use was proposed to go into that space prior to this use?
The yoga studio, yes.
Would you say that the use that is being proposed right now is more benign than the yoga studio use?
In terms of the parking requirement under the zoning ordinance, yes.
And in terms of overall traffic, do you believe it is more benign?
Yes.
And would you consider parking a dimensional variance or a use variance?
For the most part, use variance.
And currently, no one is in the portion of the condo unit that was to house the yoga studio?
That I'm aware of now.
And you do realize that no use is permitted to go into that space, it kind of renders that space valueless?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Any read?
Okay. Nicole, do you have any further questions, please?
I have no further witnesses.
So you rest the case.
Yes.
Mr. Mooney, do you have any?
I do have some brief questions for Mr. McMillan. There was some testimony at the last hearing with regard to storage on the property, and we wanted to clarify at least issues with regard to that so that it was fleshed out a little bit.
May I also just move for 1 through 11 to be admitted, please?
Mr. Mooney, any objection?
No objection.
So moved.
Thank you.
All right.
And it, who's going to
Oh,
testify?
Mr. McMillan.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
Thank
report.
you.
Mr. McMillan, you've been previously sworn, so your testimony again today will be under oath.
Yes, sir. Understood. Mr. McMillan, at our last hearing in this matter, you mentioned that some of the 4,000 square feet that you intend to rent will be used for storage, is that correct?
That's correct.
Will you be providing storage for any other company other than yours in this 4,000 square feet?
No.
What is it you intend to store in connection with your company?
As you have put previously in this meeting, transit items for my business, for renovate properties, so I order materials,
We typically do high-end renovations. A lot of those materials are online. They get delivered. We take them to the property that we're renovating.
When you say we take them to the property, the contractors show up at your business and grab materials?
I have one project manager who does the deliveries.
And is that project manager one of the 3 employees that you testified about?
Yes,
At the last
and at
hearing?
the point of when I last testified, it was 3. I do have 4 employees now, including myself.
And what is the frequency of deliveries of the materials that you described?
Bi-weekly.
And are any of the materials that you would store considered to be hazardous materials?
No.
I have no further questions.
No questions?
Question?
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, we're thinking about it, okay, so, I think all good. So, we have to do our legal.
I'd actually like to make a brief closing.
Sure, just hold on to 3.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, Mr. Mooney, do you have anything further in terms of testimony or witnesses or exhibits?
I think I proffered 3 or 4 exhibits I can't remember.
So let's just do it again right now. So, you want to make a motion to move from the commission of your exhibits, if not already done so, you're just going to do it again, correct?
Yes, yes.
So do you have the objection to?
No,
these?
you need to do one,
Okay.
a lease, just a lease. Effort.
Are there any objections? to
No.
these? No, good. So, anything else, Mr. Mooney?
Nothing else.
Ms. Plank, is there anything else that you have, other than your closing, is there anything else that you have to see? Okay, thank you very much, that's, at this point, I'd ask you, Mr. Mooney and Ms. Plank, if you'd both like to make closing comments or remarks, I'd ask you to keep relatively brief.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Plank, you.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody. The applicant provided no expert or lay testimony to meet their burden to set forth their parking needs. The only person who made statements on how they calculated the parking needs was Attorney Mooney, and he's not a witness. The applicant himself could not provide testimony. He had no calculation, did not know how to calculate it. Mr. Becker, Attorney Becker reminded Attorney Mooney that the burden was on his client, and he said he would put someone on to testify, he failed to do so. The other person who testified to a calculation was Mr. Rumbick, but then admitted he didn't know how to calculate it and deferred calculation to a realtor who never then testified. So as we sit here today, the applicant has not met his burden. So therefore, the applicant cannot state that granting this variance is necessary to enable the reasonable use, that it won't be a detriment, that it won't be a burden, that it won't pose a health and safety violation. The testimony that you have heard is that granting this relief will create additional parking issues, that it will have an adverse effect on my client's property, all properties, that it will have an adverse effect and it will impair the appropriate development of his property, that it will have an adverse effect on his tenants, his employees, and other property owners. There are only 300 and some parking spaces available. There are 1,926 necessary, and the applicant has failed to state how many he needs, how many he will need, and what his uses will be. Therefore, we ask at this time that the board deny the application. Thank you.
I'd ask that the board approve the application. The zoning denial letter and testimony set forth provided how many parking spaces we are required to have under the zoning. We provided testimony as to the proposed use. The zoning officer has testified that the proposed use is more benign than the prior use that was there. The zoning officer also testified that denial of any use in the space will render the space valueless, and I believe there's case law about what happens when a municipality renders a space valueless through zoning or any other method. It's a taking, and I believe there's case law on that. I understand Mr. Timochenko's issues. However, I've given the testimony of the applicant. I don't believe that this applicant will contribute to those issues. The use is one of the most benign uses I've ever seen. 3 to 4 employees, 9 to 5, very little client contact if any, and paperwork being done in an office. And they don't conflict with the main, what I would call, issue or violator being the Works at Wyomissing Restaurant Entertainment Complex. From the pictures that were introduced by Mr. Timochenko and Metropolitan, you can see that the majority of activity takes place at night or dusk, as was in some of the photos. It does not take place during regular business hours for the most part. We offered and we will take as a condition, we will send a letter to the Department of Defense and the recruiting office to let them know that they should not be performing calisthenics in that lot. And other than that, I believe that the applicant has sustained its burden of showing that it can meet the required parking associated with his use. And that there is no impact detrimental from the proposed use on the outside neighborhood or adjacent properties. And I rest.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Ms. Pike. Now, we do this for housekeeping, I think we still have to take care of it.
Yes, yeah, we do.
All right. So, Michelle, you had previously been sworn,
Yep.
and you have 2 hats today to provide some additional testimony. In your capacity as the zoning officer for Wyomissing, what are your duties and responsibilities?
I prepared a memo dated April 5th of 2021 summarizing the application and the relief requested.
Copy that memorandum.
I do.
We'll mark that as board exhibit number 1. Do you have any other information that you'd like to present today as the zoning officer for the
No.
in your capacity as a secretary for the zoning hearing board? What are your duties and responsibilities?
I prepared multiple public notices in this case. Okay, so the first public notice was advertised in the Reading Eagle on April 21st and April 28th, 2021. This public notice was for the hearing that began on May 5th of 2021 at 4 p.m. That same notice was posted on the subject property on April 8th of 2021 at approximately 2:30 p.m. and was mailed to all adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property on April 5th of 2021 at 3 p.m.
Good. We'll mark those, do you have those documents with you today?
Yes.
We'll mark those as board exhibit number 2. Do you have any further exhibits or testimony as the secretary of these meetings?
Yes, so subsequent to the hearing on May 5th, we needed to continue that hearing to another date. That date was June 15th of 2021 at 4 p.m. I have public notice that was advertised in the Reading Eagle on June 1st and June 8th of 2021. That same notice was posted on the subject property on May 25th of 2021 at 1 p.m. and was mailed to all adjacent property owners on May 25th of 2021 at 10:15 a.m.
We'll mark those as board exhibit number 3. And do you have anything further?
No,
Any further testimony as a secretary?
no.
Thank you very much. Now, in your capacity as a zoning officer, what ordinance was in effect at the time of this hearing?
The one that was printed November of 2018.
Mark that as board exhibit number 5, 4. We will not move that into evidence at this time. Does anybody have any objections to the board exhibits?
Oh, I forgot one thing.
Go ahead.
I have a copy of an email I sent to Attorney Mooney on June 7th of 2021 at 3:16 p.m. clarifying, when I re-advertised the June 15th hearing, I had amended the application to include the use variance and him giving me permission to amend that.
So mark that as being exhibit number 5. Does, Ms. Black, do you have any objections to any of those amendments?
None.
Mr. Mooney? No objections? None. Hearing none, we'll move the board exhibits into as you go. All right, I believe at this point we're done. Before we do this, one last time, is there anything further to come before this board?
No.
Ms. Black?
No.
Mr. Mooney? No. Mr. Walker?
At this point, we'll recess the meeting and to executive session and see if we can reach a conclusion. So if you all will excuse us.
Unfortunately, can't do anything on library anymore, because that's not closed to the public, but you're welcome to make one call. Yeah, I don't know where he disappeared to, but I'm gonna move it.
Just move it right outside, Michelle.
Oh, okay,
Nah, that's the only.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just for fun.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Wyomissing Zoning Hearing Board back to order. Is there a motion?
Yes. I move that the request for a variance by Matt McMillan for the property located at 1041 Burn Road, condominium unit 2, pursuant to section 609, all street parking requirements in section 512, leases permitted by right, shall be granted, subject to conditions to be placed on the record by our system.
Those conditions are as follows. You must abide by the hours of operation from 9 to 5. You may have number 2, you may have no more than 4 employees at the facility. If you do, you need to come back in for additional relief if there's going to be any more. You must instruct all employees and clients that there's no parking on what we talked about, the Baja lot or the lot in front of building 25. You must instruct employees and clients there's no parking at the vet lot. You must add signage into your facility that actually states the same, that they cannot park in the lot in front of building 25 or on the net lot. The decision will be subject to all prior decisions that have been granted that are not inconsistent with this decision. That the board, next one will be that you're bound by all testimony and exhibits that have been presented at the hearing today. That you will comply with all rules, regulations, laws, ordinance in effect that apply to this particular use. You'll use and develop the property also in accordance with those laws, rules, and regulations. You'll obtain and pay for all permits that are necessary for the use. That you will, this decision will be binding upon any successors or signs, and you have 1 year to implement the use with the date that the written decision will be issued.
Is there a second motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Relief is granted. Meeting is adjourned.
Question for the board and the borough. If obviously there are now parking issues, the clients, the customers, the trucks, the loading, unloading do interfere with Mr. Timchenko's parking, is he permitted to call the borough and will the borough act? Because in the past, the borough has said it isn't our problem, it's a private right, call the police, do whatever. Is the borough going to act?
In terms of zoning enforcement, yes. In terms
Because
of
he-
physically coming over and towing vehicles, no.
Will they issue fines?
That would be up to the police department's discretion, not mine.
Off the record, I mean, this is off the record, this is
Okay.
not part of the record.
Sorry.
So ultimately, I think that's an interesting question, and one that I think, there's so many private parking, I just had this discussion in another municipality. Police can't issue unless there's an agreement between the parties for them to issue citations, under the motor vehicle code. So I guess that's a question we're gonna have to ask the borough, not the zoning hearing board. If you have an agreement with them that they can enforce parking, which I suspect you would go along with, that's something to talk to the borough about and see if they're willing to do that. If they are, then they can issue citations, as long as it's properly signed.
And I can set up a conversation with Chief Welch and
Yeah,
I think
because
that-
obviously we're going to take
Yes.
this order and say, this is a condition.
Absolutely.
And we want to enforce.
Absolutely, and then the other piece of it is to what Michelle was just talking about relating to zoning. If they are violating it, then she can revoke the zoning permit, and then Mr. McMillan can continue to operate his business at that location. So it's that serious, just so you understand. I suspect what she would do is probably warn him, wouldn't be immediate revocation of the permit, just so there's some due process, but I suspect that this is serious enough, and please understand that, in light of the testimony and what's going on, even if you're coming back in and your patrons are violating this, they can subject you to that particular revocation of the permit. So I think it's important that you make sure that that's compliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you're gonna have any issues parking-wise with us. Clarify though, the one concern that I do have is if I have a need for an additional employee,
We're
we're
gonna
gonna
come back
come
and forth.
we're gonna have to come and do this entire thing
That's correct.
over again.
That's correct. I see, Bob.
Okay, right.
I would hope, I would encourage the two of you guys to kind of talk and maybe you can work something out. But that's, he has no obligation to do that.
Yeah, no,
He has his own business, we understand his rights very clearly.
Yeah, no, I understand, appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you both.
Yeah, Michelle, I'll take whatever, you want to
Thank you.
send, just email change with it together, so I can get that meeting to you right now.
We'll get a